A young lady wrongly confides in two outsiders and gets herself the subject of their mischievous cravings. On a warm evening in 1987, Gabby Donovan, an understudy competitor, heads back home alone after her netball training. Unexpectedly, a couple named Evelyn White and John White proposition her a complimentary lift home. From the outset, she declines. Be that as it may, the two effectively persuade her. Be that as it may, Gabby never contacts her home. In the interim, Vicky Maloney, a defiant high schooler, spends time with her sweetheart, Jason Farris, prior to school. Jason shows Vicky how he deciphers stored away messages utilizing the underlying letter of a word. From that point onward, he snatches an article he had secretly composed for Vicky. Vicky attempts to take it from him, yet he flippantly compromises her that he will consume it. Along these lines, Vicky stunts Jason by making out with him on his bed. She plans to leave for school. Be that as it may, prior to leaving, she reminds him to compose one more paper for her next task. During class conversation, Vicky doesn't pay a lot consideration and simply jots in her scratch pad. After class, her educator illuminates Vicky that she can trust in her since she comprehends that having separated from parents is so troublesome. Nonetheless, Vicky doesn't acknowledge her proposition. All things considered, she requests that consent return home. Vicky heads back home to her sumptuous house. After entering, she is astonished that her dad, Trevor Maloney, gifts her a pup. A couple of days after the fact, Gabby's vanishing appears, so her missing banners are all around the area. In a similar region, Trevor and Vicky pass through its street to visit Maggie Maloney, Vicky's mom. Whenever they've shown up, Vicky sees her folks squabbling over who will observe her for the evening. After hearing that she resembles an irritation, she feels profoundly hurt. During supper, the environment is off-kilter, so Maggie starts the discussion. Notwithstanding, Vicky doesn't engage her. All things considered, she tells her mom she will go to a party. This disclosure shocks Maggie since her girl didn't request her authorization. The two proceed with their supper with a weighty inclination. After supper, Vicky shows Maggie the confirmation paper she mentioned before. After understanding it, Maggie finds that somebody secretly composed her exposition, so she grounds Vicky. Because of that, Vicky attacks her mother and leaves. Inside her room, Vicky tenaciously gets ready for an evening out on the town. Once finished, she switches out her room's lights and slips through her window. She plans to stroll to arrive at the parkway and ride a taxi there. As she strolls to her objective, a savored man a vehicle heckles her. Vicky feels shaken. Unexpectedly, another vehicle grabs her eye. This time, it's Evelyn and John's vehicle. Evelyn asks where Vicky is going. Furthermore, the young lady tells her she's showing up at a party. Considering that, Evelyn offers Vicky a gruff. Enticed, the young lady approaches them and scrounges through her sack for cash. Nonetheless, John unexpectedly uncovers they ran out of dulls, so Evelyn denounces him. At the point when Vicky plans to leave, Evelyn demands they have more dulls at home. Notwithstanding the proposition, Vicky obligingly declines and continues to walk once more. Since she's new to the area, she stops and warily gets some information about the parkway's course. Evelyn readily gives the bearings, yet at the same time offers the young lady some dulls from their place. She likewise tells her that she can flag down a taxi in their space. Subsequent to hearing that, Vicky thinks about it for a couple of moments. She feels consoled when she sees a promoter seat behind the couple's vehicle and promptly acknowledges her proposition. When Vicky gets in the vehicle, the couple presents themselves and the young lady responds. Minutes after the fact, the three effectively show up at the couple's home. John and Evelyn head to the door while Vicky says she will stand by outside. After hearing that, Evelyn stays with her while John heads inside. To cut the ungainliness, Vicky asks Evelyn about her and John's relationship history. Vicky discovers that Evelyn has 2 children from her past relationship, however they are not with her right now. Nonetheless, Evelyn enthusiastically shares that she will rejoin with them soon. After their casual banter, quietness follows once more. This time, Evelyn cuts the clumsiness by imparting a bunch of cigarettes to Vicky. When the young lady attempts to get one, Lou, Evelyn's canine, barks at her. When quiet, Evelyn lets Vicky contact the canine, and the two chat. Be that as it may, their discussion is stopped when John intercedes, telling the two that he won't be out for some time since he has a significant call to reply. Because of that, Evelyn welcomes Vicky inside the house to have a beverage. The two are savoring the lounge when John at last shows up, conveying the unpolished. After seeing it, Vicky enthusiastically stands up, yet John doesn't let her free. All things being equal, he demands that the young lady stay. Nonetheless, Vicky is firm to leave, stressing she'll make her companions pause. Her vindication doesn't fluster John. All things being equal, he turns up the radio and welcomes his better half to a dance. Crushed, Vicky gets back to her seat and watches the two partake in their dance. Out of nowhere, her vision obscures, however she imagines she's fine. Energetically, she gets up and gets cash from her pack. Then, at that point, she pays John for the dull and leaves. As she attempts to get herself out, she begins to feel dubious. Out of nowhere, Evelyn and John corner her and strongly carry her to the visitor room. In the visitor room, 2 or 3 lashes a terrified Vicky on a bed. When done, the two become close before her to show strength. The following day, Maggie is repainting her walls when she finds Vicky has yet to show up from her room. Subsequently, she really takes a look at her room, just to figure out that she slipped away last evening. This chafes her, so she reaches her ex to track down her whereabouts. Be that as it may, rather than finding her area, Maggie and Trevor get into a warmed conversation, making her end the call. In the interim, Evelyn plans breakfast and calls for John. John enters and welcomes his significant other while conveying Vicky's sack. When he plunks down, he scavenges through it and gets a journal. John quickly conceals it in the bureau and leaves the room. He heads to Vicky's room and welcomes the upset young lady. At the point when he looks at her, he finds that Vicky has peed herself out of dread, so he gives her phony pity. He looks outside briefly and sees Lou's stool on the rug. This infuriates John, and he promptly reproves his better half. Evelyn becomes tense furthermore, conciliatory complies with her significant other's requests. While she cleans the stool, Vicky watches the hopeless lady. Detecting it, Evelyn takes a gander at Vicky and rapidly gets done with her responsibility. From that point forward, she enters the kitchen to take Vicky's morning meal and serve it to her. She inquires as to whether she's eager, yet the young lady shakes her head. With her response, Evelyn offers her water. In any case, Vicky rejects. It is spiked to think it. To demonstrate it's protected, Evelyn hydrates first. What's more, Vicky quickly swallows it down. Hydrated, Vicky asks Evelyn about the explanation they stole her. Rather than replying, Evelyn tells her she needs Vicky tidied up and agreeable. While in the shower, Evelyn rigorously monitors Vicky, guaranteeing the young lady won't attempt to escape. Unbeknownst to her, Vicky eyes the little washroom window as her conceivable break course. After Vicky completes her shower, she goes to the kitchen with Evelyn. Evelyn teaches the young lady to compose a letter to her folks, especially her mom. Since Vicky despises her mom, she composes the letter despite her desire to the contrary. Once got done, Evelyn actually looks at the letter while Vicky apprehensively sits tight for her decision. Sooner or later, Evelyn supports her result and strolls Vicky back to the visitor room. Before they enter, Vicky communicates her need to utilize it, yet the lady needs to keep a close eye on her. While they stroll to the restroom, John unexpectedly goes into the house, interfering with them. He tells Evelyn to unwind and offers her to smoke a bong. Thereafter, he kisses her before Vicky, making the young lady anxious. He is sorry to his significant other for his abrupt attitude today also, goes ahead to monitor Vicky. At the point when Evelyn eases off, John inclinations Vicky to enter the washroom while he tails behind her. In the parlor, Evelyn smokes a bong while she trusts that the two will wrap up. Eager, she gets back to the lobby and holds up in fermentation. At the point when John and Vicky take excessively lengthy inside, Evelyn attempts to hear what's going on inside. Her possessiveness outwits her, so she rapidly thumps on the entryway and calls for John. John opens the entryway and apologizes for locking it. Carelessly, Evelyn gets his collar once more, kisses him energetically. This purchases Vicky time to get away from through the restroom window. Practically outside, Lou unexpectedly barks at her, stopping her arrangement. In the meantime, the couple actually entertains themselves. However, John pushes Evelyn to stop. After really taking a look at the washroom, John sees the opened window and the canines bark, thinking Vicky got away. Because of that, he quickly requests Evelyn to check the front yard while he rushes to their patio. Evelyn rapidly goes along, apprehensive that she will bomb her significant other. In spite of their presumption, Vicky neglects to get away and is really concealing in the bath. Outside, John persistently reviles while Evelyn lavishly apologizes to him. Seeing that Lou still barks at the window, John accepts Vicky is still inside. Subsequently, he arranges for Evelyn to remain. Inside the house, Vicky hears John's guideline plan. She goes to the kitchen and snatches a blade. A short time later, she goes to the family room and sees the front entryway. Before she can arrive at the entryway, John quickly gets her, making her yell for help. Evelyn hears her, so she goes into the room. To quiet Vicky, she kicks her and undermines her with a blade. Left with no decision, Vicky weakly permits the couple to drag her back to the visitor room. In any case, they are intruded on when Troy, the couple's neighbor, thumps on their entryway. Since John limits Vicky, he arranges for Evelyn to mollify Troy. Right away, Evelyn meets Troy at the front entryway and converses with him. Troy gripes about the tenacious commotion coming from their home. Veiling the genuine explanation, Evelyn gives him the plausible excuse that their tipsy episode caused it. While Evelyn manages Troy, John utilizes this potential chance to fondle Vicky. He tells her that he wants her. In any case, Troy and Evelyn's contention prevents him from exploiting Vicky further. They hear Troy offending Evelyn, bringing about her pushing and pointing some scissors at him. Because of that, Troy eases off, yet prior to leaving, he takes steps to call the police at them. Subsequent to managing Troy, Evelyn gets back to the visitor room, where she and John keep limiting Vicky. When done, the couple goes to the kitchen and abandons the unfortunate young lady in hopelessness. In the kitchen, quiet follows between the couple, so Evelyn apologizes for the disaster prior. Rather than tolerating it, John tells her he will rest and give her errands. Before he can go, Evelyn tells John she adores him, yet, her better half doesn't certify this. All things considered, he controls her by compromising to leave her on the off chance that the episode reoccurs. For a walk. She utilizes this amazing chance to convey Vicky's letter subtly to Maggie's home. In the interim, Trevor and Maggie visit the police station to report Vicky's vanishing. They attempt to haggle with the cop, yet he demands that Vicky is a runaway. Directly, Maggie declares that their little girl isn't and leaves. Maggie drives home, and she rapidly enters Vicky's room and scrounges through her possessions. Later on, Trevor shows up at her home and takes note a letter in Maggie's postbox. After entering, he gives Maggie Vicky's written by hand letter. In the wake of understanding it, Maggie tracks down the letter abnormal and accepts Vicky didn't compose it. In resistance, Trevor accepts Vicky composed it to make Maggie blameworthy for establishing her. This grows into a warm contention between the ex-couple. At the point when Maggie stays firm, Trevor leaves with Vicky's letter. Whenever Trevor's gone, she cannot prevent herself from crying with Vicky's letter. Whenever Trevor's gone, she cannot prevent herself from crying. In the meantime, Vicky is battling for her life when an incovet John compels himself on her. Normally, the several carry out the thing with their hostage together. Be that as it may, this time, John needs Vicky for himself. At the point when he attempts to kiss her, he sees that Vicky has pooped. This disgusts John, so he leaves and cleans himself. Then again, Evelyn is still outside and goes to a store to purchase John's migraine pills. While holding up in the line, Evelyn sees a child before her, and she can't resist the urge to revere her. In any case, her grin wavers when she recollects her own children whom she can't meet. In the payphone, Evelyn calls her ex, Mick, to mind her children. She really misses them and needs to converse with them. In any case, Mick closes her out and closes the call. This disappoints Evelyn's appearance. John rapidly cleans the proof of him making use of Vicky. Unbeknownst to him, Evelyn has previously seen him leaving the visitor room. As the lady goes into the visitor's room, Vicky shows her the evidence of John's veracity. Evelyn laughs sharply, then leaves the room. She goes to their room, just to find John sleeping. To clear her brain, she goes outside to smoke. Later on, Evelyn goes to the visitor room. Furthermore, Vicky trusts she will free her. Nonetheless, Evelyn just unchains one of her wrists. At the point when Evelyn sits on the bed, she gets some information about what occurred while she was away. Vicky doesn't answer straightforwardly. All things being equal, she attempts to turn Evelyn against John. She honestly lets the lady know that John doesn't adore her and just purposes her. She adds that John couldn't care less about her kids, so he gave her Lou as a substitution. In the wake of hearing this, Evelyn needs to test Vicky's cases, so she enhances herself and goes to their room. Vicky rapidly gets up and puts her ear on the wall, listening in. In the couple's room, Evelyn faces John and deals with him. She tells her that assuming he adores her, he will kill Vicky. Nonetheless, John dismisses the thought. Because of that, a disappointed Evelyn goes to the kitchen once more, takes steps to slice her neck with a blade. In spite of her endeavors, John stays uninterested. Furthermore, even urges her to make it happen. Evelyn feels defenseless, so she faces him about what he did to Vicky before. To no one's surprise, John programs her and goes to the lounge room. Evelyn goes along with him in the room, and John evaluates her. To additionally increase Evelyn's trust, he controls her by praising her appearance and thinking back to their past. Then, at that point, that's what he demonstrates Evelyn needs him the most, since he is the person who saved her from her difficult history. Thus, Evelyn apologizes to John and irritates Vicky, letting him know that the young lady is playing with her head. With her affirmation, John claims to comfort her, causing Evelyn to show her weak side. She argues with John to dispose of Vicky right away. Nonetheless, he denies it and tells her they'll do it on Monday. Out of nowhere, John thinks about a horrible arrangement. He tempts Evelyn into desolating Vicky later. To completely persuade her, he tells Evelyn he adores and loves her. Evelyn capitulates to John's flatters and kisses him enthusiastically. At last, persuaded, the couple goes into the visitor room and barbarously tortures Vicky. The following day, John drives to the backwoods to dig a grave for Vicky, though Evelyn commends their victory by wearing a meager outfit and drinking liquor. While the two partake in their day, a damaged and defenseless Vicky simply sits tight for her end. Minutes after the fact, Evelyn goes into the space to clean it. She turns on the light, uncovering an exposed, what's more, ridiculous Vicky. As Vicky lies powerless, Evelyn insults her, helping her to remember her absurd slip-up. She adds that Vicky's mom is likely not searching for her obstinate girl. Evelyn's words slice profoundly through Vicky, yet she can cry. Nonetheless, in opposition to Evelyn's case, Maggie is concerned for her girl. While Maggie is in Vicky's room, she finds Jason's data and rapidly gets in touch with him. Subsequently, Maggie gets together with Jason also. Trevor decides Vicky's whereabouts. With Jason's astuteness, he unravels Vicky's area through the initials of the letter she composed. After understanding it, Maggie understands the location is near her place. Immediately, she passes on to track down her little girl. In the meantime, Evelyn washes a dirty Vicky. From that point forward, she watches her until they arrive at the visitor room. Vicky binds herself to the bed to show Evelyn she has no arrangement to get away. At that point, John gets back and sees that Lou has pooped once more inside. Netted and enraged, he arranges the canine to leave. Nonetheless, the canine doesn't tune in. What's more, goes to the kitchen. This rankles John, so he pursues her and kicks her. The canine lets out a boisterous cry, cautioning Evelyn. Thus, she acts as the hero of the canine. However, John smacks her to the ground. However hurt, Evelyn attempts to pull John away from the canine. In any case, it's past the point of no return since Lou dies. Later on, John conceals Lou's carcass in his vehicle's trunk. Then, he goes to their space to comfort his crushed spouse. Yet, his solace isn't certifiable. As Evelyn's heart, John permits her to dispose of Vicky so she can at last zero in on her children. Confident, Evelyn holds his hand in the arrangement. Then again, Maggie, Jason, and Trevor visit the police headquarters to report the proof they've found. Notwithstanding, the cop dismisses them regardless and thinks Vicky isn't kidnapped. With no other decision, the triplets pass on to track down Vicky themselves. In the meantime, Evelyn takes Vicky to the kitchen and orders her to compose one more letter to her mom. In the wake of composing, Evelyn orders her to ingest all of the pills and Vicky reluctantly agrees. Unbeknownst to Evelyn, the triplet effectively shows up at their area, and Maggie thumbs on the entryway. After hearing this, Evelyn overreacts and compromises Vicky. She'll slice her throat on the off chance that she utters a sound. Because of the consistent thumping, John volunteers to engage their surprising visitor. As he opens the entryway, John is staggered to see Gary, a neighborhood hooligan, requesting his cash. Right away, John goes back inside and madly looks for cash. It turns out the triplet shows up at some unacceptable house. What's more, Gary is the one thumping ceaselessly on the White's entryway. While Gary holds up outside, he observes Maggie frantically yelled her girl's name. A couple of seconds after the fact, John effectively gathers the required sum and heads to the entryway. After opening it, Maggie's yells reverberate inside the house, cautioning everybody. This makes Evelyn's determination falter as Maggie's calls hit her maternal senses. Then again, Maggie doesn't surrender and constantly searches for her little girl. Her yells stand out, yet she doesn't care. All she needs is to see her little girl. For Jason and Trevor, Vicky isn't around the area, so they request that Maggie leave with them. Percy arranges for Vicky to keep gulping the pills. Be that as it may, Vicky feels crushed. In this manner, she arranges for Evelyn to cut her to end her hopelessness. In spite of the authorization, a shaken Evelyn wonders whether or not to kill her. Fretful, John starts in finishing Vicky's life. He cruelly sticks her to the ground and stifles her. Battling to kill Vicky, John orders Evelyn to bring him a trash container. Sad, Evelyn gets up, yet rather than agreeing, she cuts him. This makes John discharge Vicky and feebly rest on the kitchen counter. Notwithstanding his circumstance, Evelyn is callous and ceaselessly cuts him to death. While Evelyn is involved, Vicky takes this risk to escape. She enters the restroom and gets away from through the window. At the specific second, Maggie moves in the vehicle and drives away in the wake of understanding her endeavors are unbeneficial. In the interim, Vicky exits the lawn energetically, understanding her endeavors are unbeneficial. Just to meet Evelyn once more. While Vicky boldly gazes at Evelyn, Maggie's vehicle shows up behind the lady. This boldens Vicky to stroll past Evelyn. She constantly strolls just to contact her mom's vehicle. With her endeavors, Maggie, at last, notified her from her back view mirror, and she stopped the vehicle.